Okay, so we're going to be talking with Teresa Rodriguez, affectionately known as T-Rod in our local community. Teresa is the president of the RMGVG, all-around awesome person. Teresa, tell us how you got started in growing giant pumpkins. What's your origin superhero story?
Chad, first I would want to tell your viewers that I'm a little nervous because I do not do social media. I do not post on YouTube, so I'm doing this as a favor.
Thank you.
So I'm a little nervous. My superhero story is I read a newspaper article. I read a newspaper article in the local Denver paper, the Denver Hub, I think it was, and it was an article about Wizzy when he was the president of the RMGVG, and I went to a seminar and I was hooked. I decided I was going to grow giant pumpkins.
Did you have a background in growing things at all, or like a gardening, tomatoes, whatever?
When we were kids, my stepfather he taught us how to grow in a garden. We learned how to grow tomatoes, onions, all the typical gardening stuff. And in the summer, if we wanted to go to the swimming pool, we would have to pick a bucket of rocks from the garden before we can go to the pool. So,
I think that I'm going to implement that in my parenting strategy.
Yeah. So if we wanted to go swimming, we picked a bucket of rocks, and then he would drop us off in the summer. So it was a good learning experience.
And was it, when you saw the article, was it like the challenge of growing a giant pumpkin, or you just thought it was neat? Like what drew you to that? You saw that article, being a gardener, and you're like, what made you think, like, I want to do that?
I saw that article and I thought, I'm a good gardener. I can grow a giant pumpkin.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out being a good gardener is not necessarily the same thing as being an excellent giant pumpkin grower.
So how many years have you been growing giant pumpkins?
I've been growing off and on between 12 and 13 years, off and on.
And what's your personal best?
My personal best is 857 pounds.
So what do you think, like, where do you want to be? So if you're at 8 and change, like, are you happy with where you're at, or like what are your goals?
My goal is to win my own GPC jacket. I want my own jacket. I want to, now it's just like, I've been doing this a long time. This is my 4th convention, and second-year growers are coming out with 1,700-pound pumpkins. Now it's just like, oh, okay.
Brad's just showing off.
Yeah, he's just showing off. Good guy, but he's showing off. So my goal is I still want my jacket. So my ultimate goal is I'm going to grow 4,300 pounds between 3 different pumpkins.
So, knowing the audience of my YouTube channel, which is largely, beginner-ish people, and some, people here who've grown really big pumpkins, have told me that they watch the channel, but, for the most part, it's a channel that's geared towards the beginners. So, you've been doing it a long time, and you've had what I think is success, and you're trying to push forward. So, like, what are some of the what are your tips for the beginners and they're starting out, some of the things that you've learned over the years that have been very helpful to you?
As a beginner, I'm going to have to say, don't be afraid to try something new. In the beginning, I was always afraid of applying certain products because I consider myself an environmentalist, so to speak. I compost, I recycle, I try to do what's right by the environment. And that conflict was coming up a lot when I was growing in the beginning. Now, when I'm applying new products, I had to quit being afraid of trying new products. Is what was a big thing that was for me. And I had to learn how to read the product labels. I had to understand what I was reading. And before I would reach out and ask other growers, hey, what does this mean, or what does that mean? I would always try to find the answer first, because that helps the learning process. Can't be afraid to try something new. You can't be afraid of reading the product labels and saying, oh, I don't understand this, and asking. The other thing is, basics. You need to know about misting your pumpkin, heat control, sunburn. We live in Colorado, 5,280 feet. Sunburn is a big deal for your leaves. You have to use shade cloth. And there's just lots of good informational, your YouTube videos, there's a lot of good information out there that shows you.
Even though you watch my YouTube videos to fall asleep to.
Oh, I'm honest, yeah.
They're useful. You know, they have a use.
Actually, I have learned a lot, you know, and then during some of the YouTube videos, you know, you're covering your pumpkins. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's that time of the season. You know, you just get so engulfed in the season, you forget. Hey, by the way, the weather's dropping below 50 degrees. Cover your pumpkins. So it's.
And tell us about your, because I really like you know, where you grow is one of my favorite grows because it's such a unique and I think very relatable to most, you know, the vast majority of gardeners. Like so many people in this room have like, you know, farms and acreage and huge areas, but you don't. You know, you're a little limited in what you grow. Can you tell us about your growing spaces? You know, yours and then the other one.
I'm very limited. I live in the city and county of Denver. If you live in the city and county of Denver, you know where West 6th Avenue and I-25 is. I'm in the heart of Denver, and I have a typical residential lot, 50 feet by 100 feet. So my backyard is limited. Every piece of real estate is allocated. If it doesn't belong back there, it's not going to be back there. And I'm also very fortunate. I married a carpenter foreman husband, and he built me it's not a nursery, but it functions as a nursery. And he built me an enclosure that spans 450 square feet. I think it's 16 feet wide by 30 feet. 16 feet long, 30 feet wide. 450 square feet is not a lot of grow area, but when you are protecting your plant from the hail, it's amazing. I've lost a couple of seasons due to hail, and my husband said, "No, we're done." So he built me that structure, and it works great.
And then what about the ones that you don't grow in the structure?
I do a lot of hoop houses. I do my, you know, the PVC with the rebar pounded into the ground.
Where do you grow those?
Oh, I grow those in my neighbor's yard. You're right. I'm sorry. I have great neighbors. They do not grow. They don't grow gardens. They're not interested in giant pumpkins. So my husband cut a gate in the fence between our two yards. So I just open the gate and I go into their backyard and I grow in their entire backyard. They're awesome. Great. They're great neighbors.
That's so cool.
So yeah, so I grow. Last season was my first attempt at growing to win my jacket, and I grew 2 different spots. I had 2 different pumpkins growing back there, but this season I'm going to grow 1 pumpkin in their backyard. Yeah. So. And
you were off to a killer start last year.
Yeah.
So I think you know it's a good year for you. You just need some good weather.
I need some good weather, and I need my misting system up. I need it functioning at a higher capacity, a more reliable misting system, and that was the big learning lesson for me last season. Was the heat took my pumpkin down, my fruit down. So.
And you know, so you're also the president of the Colorado Club. What can you share with the viewers on just like, you know, being in a pumpkin club in general? You know, what has a club done for you over the years? How helpful has it been, you know, trying to encourage people who watch this to, you know, go out and join their local club?
For me, it's the camaraderie. I can text anybody and ask any question, and you know, and it's up to me if I think their advice is advisable or not. And 9 times out of 10, they're pretty correct. They're right on the money. Yeah. They also give you another perspective about what's going on in your backyard. You know, you're out. Myself personally, last season I was outside 40 hours a week because I had 4 plants, and it's my own grow. There's nobody out there to help me. So I will text my fellow growers. I'll get information. I'll share information. We'll share pictures. We'll share gripes. You know, so we're a tight-knit community. Yeah. The other benefit of being involved with the club, the RMGVG, for instance, is we'll send out seed bubbles. We're also going to have our bulk buy, and your viewers know what a seed bubble is. Yep. We're gonna have our bulk buy. We're also planning our patch tour at the end of July, and we're going to be up north this season. We're going to be in Fort Collins and Wyoming. So if you live up north, come by and see a tour. Come by and see somebody else's patch.
Wrapping up, Teresa, do you have any, like, just, what do you want to tell everybody? Leave them with, you know, your number 1 tip for growing a giant pumpkin, tomato, vegetable, whatever they want. Teresa's #1 tip. Always tie your shoes.
My #1 tip now is weather heat related. You know, if it's 100 degrees outside, have your misting system up. If you're going to take your plant out in April, like I do, I'm going to have my hoop houses up. I'm going to have some power out there for my heat lamps. I'll have my chicken lamps to heat the plant. I'll have my grow lights to give them a little extra sun because,
Yep.
it's still winter. It's still winter in April in Colorado. It's still winter in May in Colorado some years.
Colorado.
So, but it's all about the misting when it's hot. It's about the heat when it's cold. What pumpkins need, you need to be above 50 degrees for your pumpkin, for your plant to grow.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Teresa. Appreciate you.
Okay, thanks, Chad. Thank you for being a member of our club.
Oh, happy to do it.